Hello, this is Susan, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the June and July 2026 issue of the Polish American Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. First article I would like to read under Newsmark. Sikorski warns Poland on Trump remarks. Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski said U.S. President Donald Trump's recent statement that the United States is strongly contemplating abandoning NATO is serious. After NATO refused to join his assault on Iran, Trump told The Telegraph that he was seriously considering leaving the international coalition. Trump called the alliance a paper tiger and claimed leaving the military treaty was beyond reconsideration. Sikorski told TVN 24 that such utterances should be taken as a possibility and taken seriously. Sikorski stated that Poland needs two insurance policies rather than relying on one, referring to European plans to enhance defense capabilities for security. Today, it turns out that we need to consider alternatives, he said. Sikorski said, of course, NATO is the cornerstone of our security. Of course, we want to be good, loyal allies of the United States, but we cannot pretend that the U.S. president is not saying what he is saying. Demands apology. Poland summoned Israel's charged deputies demanding an apology after Israeli Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir shared a video mocking detained activists, including Polish citizens. As part of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, activists from 56 countries launched 70 vessels to break Israel's naval barrier and raise awareness of Gaza's humanitarian crisis. Israel forces held 420 people on the ships in international seas, including the Polish volunteers. Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski summoned the envoy to express shock and seek an explanation for extremely inappropriate behavior by Israel cabinet member Ben-Gvir, who posted video of the activists kneeling with hands tied behind their backs and heads bent, captioned, "This is how we welcome terrorism supporters. Welcome to Israel. We are the masters." Polish citizens who have committed no crime must not be treated this way. In the democratic world, we do not abuse or mock people held in detention, Sikorski tweeted. This video was widely criticized throughout Europe. EC addresses pollution. Poland's failure to restore and protect the Oder River after previous environmental disasters led the European Commission to initiate infringement proceedings. Poor river quality created algae blooms that killed 360 tons of fish in 2022 and 100 tons in 2024. Since Poland has failed to preserve the Oder by reducing mine saline water outputs, according to the EC. Polish officials have 2 months to react to the EC's formal letter of notice. If it fails to reassure Brussels, the Commission may use Poland at the EU Court of Justice. Since the 2022 and 2024 toxic golden algae outcomes, the measures taken by Poland have been insufficient to reverse the deterioration and ensure that water bodies achieve good status, the commissioner found. Another mass grave discovered. The Polish State Institute of National Remembrance, or the IPN, has found a mass grave in Ukraine where Ukrainian nationalists massacred ethnic Poles in the Volhynia massacres during World War II. After a diplomatic breakthrough that lifted a protracted restriction on ex-humanitarian operations, Ukraine permitted the search for victims to restart. The IPN found the remains on the first day of search operations in Ostrowski and Wola Ostanida, posting photos. The Ukrainian Insurgent Army, the UPA, killed around 1,000 Poles there on August 30th, 1943, as part of an ethnic cleansing operation. In 1990s, 2011, and 2015, both sites exhumed hundreds of victims. In 2017, Ukraine blamed massacre victim searches after Poland demolished a UPA monument. According to the Polish press agency, researchers believe there may be 30 burial sites in the two countries with 350 fatalities. The 1943 through 45 massacre killed 100,000 ethnic Poles, predominantly women and children, according to the IPN. It estimates unmarked death pits include 55,000 Polish and 10,000 Jewish victims. Next, from the editor's desk, Blood Pressure Pills and All That, an article written by Mark Cohen. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change, is a popular paraphrase summarizing Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, though Darwin never actually said or wrote it verbatim. For my quadophile friends, the rewording belongs to Leon C. Meganson, professor of management and marketing at Louisiana State University at Baton Rouge, who nonetheless accurately abridged Darwin's On the Origin of Species for the common man. In short, adaptability, not brute strength or intelligence, is key to survival, accurately reflecting Darwin's concept of survival of the fittest. Fittest, according to Darwin, meant the best suited or adapted to their environment, not necessarily the biggest or smartest. So why is he talking about Darwin, you may be asking yourself? Isn't he the guy who said we evolved from monkeys? As editor of the PAJ for 40 plus years, I have seen the paper adapt to every change technology and demographics has thrown at it. As a Pole, my DNA is wired to survive, continue, and thrive. This means my DNA intertwined with the newspaper. I know it's not a healthy way to run a business, but that's what blood pressure pills are for. The point, it is hard to not look at the writing on the wall. Given its environment, the only way this paper will survive will be by adapting. We have taken a few steps and will be taking a few more. As you remember from last month's paper, we are closing the PAJ bookstore. In its heyday, the store generated plentiful sales. Over the past few years, it became a white elephant, so it was best to let it go. If you'd dabbled in accounting, you know that unearned income is fun until you have to de-unearn it. As one of my professors used to say, years ago this was never a problem, as funds for 2 and 3 year subscriptions generated enough income to keep the lights, heat, and water on. Since COVID, the cost of mailing the newspaper has more than doubled, and more price hikes are in the horizon. And for that reason, we stopped offering 3-year subscriptions. Starting this month, we will only offer 1-year subscriptions, and this is the simplest way to stay ahead of rising postage costs. One other option, which has been tabled until the end of the year, is changing the PAJ to a quarterly. Again, this is just an idea being passed around the office. And while I refuse to become an old dog who won't learn new tricks, keeping up with technology has become a siphon tax, further adding to blood pressure woes. Most recently, we met new internet requirements and fiscal integration. The PAJ's website was retooled. It was something that had to be done to make the paper more mobile phone friendly. With this came new security measures. And if you have used a computer or mobile device in the last few years, you have no doubt been hounded to set up two-step authorizations. For those not familiar with this, a password is not enough these days to get you to your email or favorite website. The second step requires sending a code to an email, cell phone text, or security application on your phone or computer. Begrudgingly, I began the process of setting up two-factor authorizations. The next week, I was flooded with telephone calls and emails asking if and or telling me that both the PAJ and my personal email accounts had been hacked. I alerted everyone I could, our banks, UPS, vendors, only to find out I was too late. A considerable amount of money, considerable as in grand theft, was illegally transferred from our bank to an unknown party in Denmark. Our computer guys said it would be from anywhere, or it could be from anywhere, and if we were playing Jeopardy, what is Russia would be the correct answer. They also hacked into our payroll account and planned on having our next paychecks electronically transferred to their accounts. Fortunately, payroll was dispersed a day earlier, and there was a 2-week wait for the next one. The real joke on him would have been when he saw how little we make, but that's for another column. By the time the bank's fraud department traced the attack, the fake accounts were closed. Further fiscal forensics proved the theft was real, and we were covered for the loss. Now the fun began. The banks, UPS, and payroll company, you name it, all required closing the compromised accounts and setting up new ones. And if you think the pendant at the UPS counter is a rule follower, you simply must try UPS's online accounting system. Granted, I understood their issues with me not knowing the maiden name of the person who 35 years ago set up the accounts for the newspaper, or the password to a website dashboard that would make a NASA engineer jealous. But a little help, please? I don't speak USPS. What's more, I will spare you the details. I will tell you, however, that prayers for patience and guidance are working as the accountant and I work through the mechanics of the hacking episode. I did not initially plan to share this with our readers, but it has become a big part of what's been happening at the PAJ for the past month or so. And just when I calm down and decide to reopen this very file and wrap it up 7 paragraphs ago, I opened an email from our printer who informed us another price hike on the cost of paper. Anyone have an extra dosage of Lisinopril they can spare? You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Polish-American Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Next, an article entitled Mixed Messages about U.S. troops in Poland. Defense Minister steers clear of conflict over reduction in Germany. Washington, D.C. According to 3 U.S. Army sources, on May 14, 2026, the Defense Department abruptly suspended the deployment of more than 4,000 troops to Poland as part of a realignment of American forces in Europe, surprising many military chiefs on both sides of the Atlantic. However, less than a week later, on May 20th, Poland's Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz said senior U.S. military officials reassured him Poland remained a model ally and a key strategic partner for Washington and Europe, and despite recent reports, there were no plans to reduce the U.S. military presence in Poland. U.S. troop deployment in Europe, part of a larger Trump calculation to wean NATO from U.S. dependency, was accelerated by comments made by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who publicly criticized Trump's policies on Iran. While Washington refutes the claim, an unnamed Pentagon official said German rhetoric was inappropriate and unhelpful when discussing troop withdrawals from Germany. Although NATO officials stated they do not expect a substantially larger pullout than the announced reductions, Trump warned reporters the European military decrease may be worse. When asked about the reason for the move, he didn't offer an explanation and said an even bigger reduction was coming. We're going to cut way down, and we're cutting a lot further than 5,000, he told reporters in Florida. Trump also threatened to withdraw troops from Italy and Spain for refusing to support the U.S.-led war against Iran. Italy has not been of any help to us, and Spain has been horrible, said Trump. Because of the conflicts in Ukraine and Middle East, Democrats and some prominent Republicans in Congress condemned the Pentagon's withdrawal from Germany. Armed Secretary Daniel P. Driscoll and interim Army Chief of Staff General Christopher LaNave did not address the cancellation during their appearance before the Senate Armed Services Committee on May 19th. That evening, Polish Defense Minister, posting on social media, said the matter does not concern Poland. It relates to the previously announced change in the presence of some U.S. armed forces in Europe. Military officials said Germany's troop reductions will bring U.S. personnel in Europe back to 2022 levels before Russia's intervention into Ukraine. Last year, the Pentagon moved a brigade to Romania without replacing it. Even if the Pentagon withdraws 5,000 troops, Germany will still have more than 30,000 U.S. troops, ranking second only to Japan. Almost 80,000 U.S. troops are in Europe. Next, we have an article by Benjamin Fiore. Archive exonerates St. John Paul II. A controversy over then Krakow Archbishop Karol Wojtyla and his handling of cases of abusive priests erupted in 2023. Allegations circulated in the public media that he knowingly reassigned abusive priests to avoid scandal. Long sealed expletive archives in Krakow recently opened clearly demonstrates that Archbishop Wojtyla, later named Pope John Paul II, not only did not conceal accusations but rather went beyond ordinary practice in dealing quickly and effectively with cases of abuse. Even in the newspaper, independent of and sometimes critical of the Church, agreed with this conclusion. The recently released archives contain 9 densely compiled volumes related to specific priests with supplementary documents from parish records, personal statements, and correspondence from parishioners, official transfer decrees, disciplinary measures, and restrictions imposed on clerical ministry. 2 priests, Sergeant and Larenc, were both imprisoned on charges against them. Upon their release, Wojtyla removed their priestly faculties and had them sent to monasteries. He ordered a psychiatric evaluation for another suspected priest, unusual at the time. One priest, Bolsha Sados, had been transferred to Austria, but that was before allegations against him were lodged, and these eventually proved less incriminating and more ambitious than initially reported. Parallel research in the archives of the Institute of National Remembrance, containing material from the Nazi and Communist periods, reached the same conclusion, and St. John Paul II then remains exonerated and merits his place as a towering national and religious figure in Poland. Vatican raises questions about animal organ donors to humans. The Pontifical Academy of Life, founded by St. John Paul II, has considered the ethical questions surrounding using organs from animals to treat diseases in humans. The conclusion is that the emerging process is ethical as long as there is no psychological or physiological change in the human. Several widely publicized cases involve using pigs or baboons as the source of hearts and livers for humans. While not totally successful as yet, these experimental procedures continue with increasing levels of success. St. John Paul II addressed the International Congress of the Transplant Society and upheld the moral legitimacy of xenotransplantation, which is transplanting foreign organs, but only if the transplanted organ does not affect the physiological or genetic identity of the person who received it. and that there exists the proven biological possibility of carrying out such a transplant with success without exposing the recipient to excessive risks. Archbishop Fulton Sheen to be beatified. Bishop Louis Tylka, the Diocese of Peoria, Illinois, announced that Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen is scheduled to be beatified on September 24th after more than 20 years of setbacks and prolonged silence. Archbishop Sheen was born Peter John Sheen in El Paso, Texas in 1895 and was ordained to the priesthood for the Diocese of Peoria in 1919. He served as auxiliary bishop in New York from 1951 through 1966, after which he became Bishop of Rochester, New York, until his retirement in 1969. He is most well known for his popular Emmy Award-winning television program Life is Worth Living, which aired on TV from 1952 through 1957, attracting millions of viewers. He also served as National Director of the Society for the Propagation of the Faith. A miraculous recovery of the infant James Fulton was attributed to his intercession. From 2014 to 2019, his case was interrupted by a dispute between the Diocese of Peoria and New York over where his remains should be retained. An appeals court ruling settled the issue in favor of Peoria, and the miracle was approved by Pope Francis in 2019. Further delay, occasioned by ongoing investigations into clergy sexual abuse in Rochester, ended with an affirmation of the Archbishop's exemplary virtue. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Polish American Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Next, we have Old School Polish Animation by Beatrice Jedrzejczyk. Often labeled Little Poland, the town of New Britain, Connecticut, has become a destination for those seeking places in the United States that still maintain a strong sense of Polish identity. Like other communities with large Polish people, its presence is visible in bakeries, essential services, and unique family-owned businesses. Standing among them is a painted box made to resemble a 1970 television, showing a scene from Bolek. It is a clear reminder of how animation is tied to Polish cultural heritage. Polish animation continues to have an impact on international cinematography through its ingenuity and distinctive artistic approach. Released in 2023, Szopli, or The Peasants, is an internationally renowned production based on the novel by Władysław Reymont. More than 100 painters from Poland, Siberia, Ukraine, and Lithuania spent over 200,000 hours hand painting in individual frames. The result is a testament to an old-school artistic tradition that is increasingly rare in an era dominated by digital tools and artificial intelligence. This commitment to craft is not new. Rather, it reflects a larger tradition in which Polish animators have used the medium not only for storytelling, but also as a form of artistic expression that at times carried deeper meanings. Unlike their Western counterparts, Polish animation often used symbolic imagery that was overlooked by government censors but appreciated by audiences able to recognize hidden messages in works that appeared apolitical. One of the earliest examples of surrealist animation combining live action, stop motion, and cutout techniques was released in post war Poland in 1958, directed by Jan Leninka and Władysław Borowczyk. Surrealism was never far from the language of Polish animation. Experimental form and narrative ambiguity were important artistic foundations. Another renowned example is the 1963 short film Labyrinth, created by Leninka, a 14-minute collage-style project that features a person trapped within an endless maze of faceless authority. Its fragmented imagery, ahead of its time, animation style, and oppressive atmosphere create a sense of bureaucratic entrapment, turning abstract visuals into a clear allegory of control and confinement. It features surreal and unsettling imagery, including ravens, a fanciful walrus wearing a hat, and a mustached figure with insect-like wings. The animation projects that followed also continued to use unsettling imagery designed to provoke a reaction. Distorted figures and fragmented architecture created environments that felt eerily familiar, yet impossible to view with indifference. These works encouraged audiences to confront questions of control, identity, and confinement in the context of their time. It is important to note that Borowczyk moved to France in 1959. Between 1946 and 1988, he directed 40 films, many of which also explored experimental visual storytelling approaches. One of his most important animated projects is the Theater of Mr. and Mrs. Cabell. This 1967 film shows a surreal and disturbing version of everyday life mixed with dark humor and absurdity, all within the constraints of censorship. During a decade of further social change, Zbigniew Rybnicki continued to pursue the surrealist genre. In 1981, a time when many immigrated from Poland due to political persecution, he developed his experimental vision further. His 8-minute film Tango went on to win an Academy Award just 2 years after its release. It features 36 people of different social statuses and ages walking in loops in one small, crowded room. Importantly, they do not interact with each other, which symbolizes societal isolation. There was also a genre of Polish animation catered toward younger audiences, and many of these projects greatly influenced the pop culture of their time, and even today they continue to have an impact on cultural memory. These cartoons have been watched by many in America Polania, alongside members of other heritage communities. The previously mentioned Black Lilac is one of the symbols of Polish animation, known for its simplicity and wide appeal. Its main creators were Władysław Niedźwiecki, Alfred Ludwig, and Leszek Lorek. This mostly dialogue-free cartoon, which crosses language barriers, follows the adventures of two brothers learning about friendship and problem solving. Its presence in New Britain is more than just decorative. It is an example of how cultural memory is kept and shared across generations. The series aired from 1963 to 1986, around the time when many Poles immigrated to large American cities. Resco, which premiered in 1967 and lasted until 1990, is another long-lasting series in the canon of Polish animation. The series' main character is a small dog named Rexio. Like Bolek I Loic, it does not incorporate much dialogue and includes elements of educational content. The series was created by Lechosław Marszalek and his real lifelong dog and companion Trolla, a wire-haired fox terrier, inspired the creation of Rexio. Miss Urzatek, or Teddy Drapier, is another series that stars an anthropomorphic character, a small teddy bear with a distinctive floppy ear created by Zdzisław Janczarski and Zbigniew Rychalicki. It aired from 1975 to 1987, but its tone differs from the previously mentioned 2D animated cartoons. The animation style is stop-motion cutout animation. The show is calm in tone, and the main character consistently demonstrates kindness. All these animation series were produced by Studio Filmo Rękawiczów, or the Animated Film Studio, in Bielsko-Biała. There are even statues dedicated to these characters. In many forms, Polish animation reflects artistic experiments, from surreal, politically driven projects to simple children's entertainment. Animation has had an impact across generations. These are just some examples of works that continue to fascinate those who study Polish culture and its significance on the world stage. In fact, Polish animation has been featured in a number of exhibitions in Academy Museum in Los Angeles and the Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, the Museum of Cinematography in Lodz also has a permanent exhibit called the Palace of Animated Wonders. Next, we have an article in Genealogy, Talking to Older Relatives by Stephen Zabados. Another essential early source in your research is your family's oral history. Much of what we know about our ancestors is passed down through stories, sometimes detailed accounts of immigration, sometimes simple memories like a family recipe or a holiday tradition. When searching for your roots in Poland, the most valuable stories are those about the immigrants themselves. Pay close attention to any place name you hear, even if it seems unfamiliar or oddly spelled. Every name is a potential clue. As you gather these clues, you may not yet know how they fit together. Spellings may look wrong and details may seem contradictory. Save everything, and over time, patterns will emerge, and what once seemed insignificant may become the key to unlocking a breakthrough. Make it a priority to sit down with your older relatives and share what you already discovered. Start conversations by recalling stories you heard at family gatherings or by showing them old photographs. Ask gentle, open-ended questions. Where was this taken? Who are these people? What was happening at the time? The goal is to make them comfortable enough to talk freely. Remember that you are seeking information from people whose memories are precious and irreplaceable. Age, time, and illness can erase details forever. So speak with your family's patriarchs and matriarchs as soon as possible. Grandparents, great-grandparents, great-aunts and uncles, older cousins, and even longtime neighbors who knew your relatives well. Identify the people who hold the most family knowledge and reach out early in your research. Waiting too long may mean losing access to their memories. Before visiting, prepare a list of questions and topics. This helps guide the conversation and ensures you gather information that fills gaps in your research. FamilySearch.org offers an excellent list of more than 1,800 sample questions on its wiki pages. wiki.familysearch.org/and creating a personal history. Organize the information you already have so you can present it clearly. I find it helpful to extract details from documents and create summary sheets for each ancestor. These summaries, along with copies of documents and photographs, can be kept in ring binders or folders. While electronic devices, smartphones, tablets, laptops are convenient for storing information, consider how your relatives prefer to view it. Many older family members are more comfortable with paper than with screens. Show your relatives the summaries and photos. Genealogical charts can help you understand relationships, but non-genealogists often find them confusing. Summaries and pictures are far more effective for sparking memories and building rapport. Familiar images and names often bring long-forgotten stories to the surface. Let the conversations unfold naturally. It should feel like an exchange, not an interrogation. Avoid yes or no questions. Encourage storytelling. Be a patient, attentive listener. Don't interrupt. Don't finish their sentences. Don't put words in their mouth. Let them complete their thoughts before moving on. Use photos to prompt memories and help people identify people and places. If you are meeting one-on-one, consider recording the conversation. A video camera or audio recorder can capture details you might otherwise miss or forget. If possible, have another person handle the camera so you can focus on the conversation. Eye contact and relaxed engagement often help relatives recall more. Plan for multiple visits. Keep each session to about 2 hours unless your relative wants to continue. Older family members tire easily, and returning later gives them time to remember additional details. Follow-up visits also allow you to share new discoveries, which may spark fresh memories. You may also learn that other relatives are researching the family, and this can lead to valuable exchanges of information, documents, and photographs. Keep in mind that memories fade and details can become confused. Oral history is not always precise, but it often contains truths found nowhere else. Treat every story as a treasure, even if some facts seem questionable. Record exactly as told and add your own notes or concerns separately. Future research by you or by later generations may confirm or clarify the details. After each visit, transcribe the conversation as soon as possible. If you recorded it, transcription will be easier. If not, write down everything you remember while it is still fresh. Create lists of follow-up questions and new research tasks. Points to remember when talking to older relatives. Speak with them as soon as possible. Keep the conversation natural and balanced. Build rapport before asking questions. Avoid yes and no questions. Record conversations when possible, and treat all information as clues. Write down every place, name, even if uncertain. Revisit relatives after new discoveries, and they may remember more. Once you have gathered family documents and oral history, the next step is to review as many records as possible. Look not only at your ancestors' documents, but also as those of siblings, cousins, neighbors, and friends who came from the same area. Collect every town name you encounter. Each one may point you closer to the correct location in Poland. Never assume a document is irrelevant. The smallest detail may help break through a brick wall. Earlier churches in Poland recorded births, marriages, deaths, and your ultimate goal is to identify the town where the parish was located. Extra place names may refer to nearby villages, larger towns, or administrative districts, each one a piece of the puzzle. Think of your research as assembling a jigsaw puzzle. Every town name is a fragment of the picture. Other details, occupations, names of friends, godparents, and relatives, are additional pieces. As you gather more clues, the image becomes clearer. Eventually, the scattered pieces form a map pointing you back to your ancestors' birthplace. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Polish American Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio. Next, how about a summertime salad? This is a short recipe. Babcia's Simple But Sweet Vinegar Summer Salad by Barbara Betlejewska. My Babcia and my Matka always made this simple but delicious salad every summer when the garden was in full production. I've never seen it anywhere else, so I think my Babcia, who was a chef, created it. I remember my Tata would always eat his on a spodezek. It's spelled S-P-O-H-D-E-H-T-S-E-K. He would have it on a little saucer and then drink the refreshing marinade from the saucer on hot days. So the rest of the family followed suit. Ingredients are several small pickling pickles, finely sliced, one green or colored pepper cut into long, thin rounds, one tomato cut into medium pieces, or 6 or 8 cherry or grape tomatoes, 1/4 cup vinegar, 1/8 to 1/4 cup sugar, 1 cup chilled water with pepper to taste. Mix all the ingredients together and chill for several hours before serving. The amount of ingredients can be easily varied, but the marinade is always around 1:1:4 ratio. Since we're talking food, here's another Polish recipe. It's sauerkraut and mushroom pies by Anna Herning. It was not the early 1990s that Poland was introduced to America's favorite fast food, a hamburger. Following the Golden Arches, burger joints started popping up all over town, some better than others, providing an alternative to what Poles were used to eating on the go. I suppose a version of it always existed in the old country in a form of sandwiches, but now there is a new way to call it fast food. As exciting as it was to be part of the West, with access to food that for decades we only knew from worn-out magazines passed around from friend to friend, I found myself craving comfort foods I grew up with. I don't think I was the only one. Pierogies and naleśniki shops started filling the market gap as the newness of the burger was now wearing off. There are a few places in my hometown that serve Polish food fast. Some have been around for a couple of decades. Opened years before we knew to call it fast food. There is one place in particular that I have in mind that has been around for close to 50 years. It's called Pazinczyk, and it serves pastries stuffed with meats, mushrooms, or cheeses, much like pierogi fillings. There is always a line, and people rarely stop to read the menu. It has now changed in years. Small space is full of students, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, kids stopping on the way from school, sipping on hot beet broth, and rushing to finish their hot pastries before moving on to the next thing on their daily agenda. What we eat may change from time to time, but I guess the need to eat fast will always be there. Next time I go, I will take my time and savor the moment. I will stop and think about how awesome it is to be back and eat my fast food slow. In the meantime, I'm recreating the flavors of Pazinczyk by making my own at home. My all-time favorite filling is sauerkraut and mushrooms, hot and savory filling surrounded by a soft and slightly salty golden brown pastry brings together the comfort food of my childhood and the convenience of fast food of now. This yields 12 pies, and it takes 20 minutes to prepare and about 40 minutes to cook. The ingredients are 3 1/4 cups flour, 1 1/4 cup warm water, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 1/2 teaspoons of instant yeast. The filling is 6 ounces of baby mushrooms, 1 onion chopped, 2 tablespoons of butter or oil, and a pinch of salt, 3 bay leaves, and 6 peppercorns and allspice berries, 1/4 teaspoon of ground pepper, and 14-ounce can of sauerkraut. Additionally, you need 1 egg. Instructions: combine ingredients to form dough. Knead until smooth, about 3 to 5 minutes. Set aside, covered in a warm spot. Rest until the filling is ready. Chop clean mushrooms and saute in butter with onions until they're brown around the edges. Add bay leaves, peppercorns, allspice berries, and ground pepper. Drain the sauerkraut and roughly chop. Add to the mushroom-onion mixture and saute until all the liquid evaporates, about 10 minutes. Make sure the mixture is completely dry. Set aside to cool. Preheat oven to 350. Divide the dough in half and roll out to form a triangle. Place half of the sauerkraut and mushroom filling along the middle of the rolled out dough. Brush edges all around the edges of the dough with a beaten egg. Fold top half over the rectangle onto filling and then the bottom onto the dough. Flip stuffed roll upside down onto the seam. Cut into smaller sections, but don't spread out. Transfer into a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Even though each roll is cut, keep cut pieces close together along the cuts so the filling doesn't spill out and dry out. Brush the tops of the rolls with remaining beaten egg. Bake for about 15 to 20 minutes or until the top is golden brown. Note, you can experiment with fillings. Visit this person's website, polishyourkitchen.com, for the meat pierogi filling as an alternative to the sauerkraut and onion. And finally, August 8th is set for the scholarship fundraiser at the Polish Falcons. The date has been set for the 2026 fundraiser in support of the Derek Kazarowski Memorial College Scholarship. This year's event will be held on Saturday, August 8th, 2026 at the Polish Falcons of Depew at 445 Columbia Ave in Depew. Festivities begin at 6:30, and for ticket information, please contact James Kazarowski, JEJKAZ@yahoo.com, or call 716-864-4642. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the June and July 2026 issue of the Polish American Journal. Your reader has been Susan, and thank you for listening.